Let's explore some truth about Mount Desert Island and what happened there in the mid late 80s, 88 and 89. And what was learned there and what can be found. Now, contrary to the slanders of the Licky Chops gang, I had a toothache and very little money. And I went to a bus station. I got on a bus because crazy named Will Zell, who I knew at Temple University's Tyler School for the Arts. Well, he was an upperclassman with Michael McGarvey of the Gutter Snipes. Um, and some people I knew from the governor's school were there. He had enlisted me in a conversation about a Gurdjieff cult that he knew about. And since Fripp was in Gurdjieff, and I kept hoping that music would be a sweet medicine that might help me. I was still could hear, maybe 30% hearing left with hearing aids. I could appreciate some music. I can't anymore. But I had a toothache and enough money for coffee when I got in at 4 o'clock in the morning. I went to Dunkin' Donuts. It was dark, 3 o'clock in the morning. Freezing cold, man, really brisk. Even that time of year, it must have been spring. And I ended up, Wazell showed up, and we went to North Whitefield, where John Archer was living, in a five-sided house that he had built with a fireman's pole running down the middle. He took me in and showed me around once. His girlfriend didn't want me staying there because I wasn't black. So I shipped out to Mount Desert Island. Why MDIY, YMCA of MDI, and rented for $50 from Mount Gerald, campsite on his property. Pitched the tent and went to the water clean every day. Took some dishwashing jobs, tossing pizzas at Ryan's. And I wrote for the Bar Harbor Times. I expressed my concern in a long letter comparing the AIDS situation with the Holocaust situation. And sure to the form of this sort of underworld, a girl came on to me at a place called the Underground or something. It was a dance hall. She was fast and furious, and she had a tattoo of the Grim Reaper on her inner thigh, pointing at her, you know, pendulum. And she had needle tracks, and I thought this is exactly what I expected. They're running an insane entrapment operation, and that's what they were doing, yeah. They call themselves the Society for Human Ecology. One of their board of directors, John Stockwell, was in the CIA, followed me to Allentown for the Wall Street crash around the time of my birthday. He came on my birthday the year before. And the summer after, the fall after I met Donaldo Gilligan. Here I am up on this island, Donald O.G. She could sing in a baritone the way Diamond Gullis did. So they were progressing, you know, with the stuff. I even wrote a poem about getting the quail, and Bush promotes Dan Quayle. I thought that was strange. So they knew what they wanted to do with me. They burned down the Jackson Labs, gave me scabies and stuff. And I was hollering, you know, what the hell is all this? But Peter Gabriel a lot. He called it an experience park, talking technologists and ours at the experience park. Mom, meanwhile, they're whispering to their buddies in the black militant crowd of Africa. He's a white sacrifice. We're going to have burn the Buddha, have a barbecue, and all this other, Temple University's Black Studies jobs. So it was getting sick. That was obvious. And Peter Gabriel made it look like, oh, I don't understand what's going on. I must be deluded. When in reality, he was in cahoots, and I was thinking maybe he wasn't. Because I had high expectations and high hopes of those people, which were dashed. But what is Mount Desert Island? What degree does the facts about Mount Desert Island support the theories? I mean, for one thing, the people who were down in Dallas around Oswald, they took vacations on Mount Desert Island. I crossed paths with Polly Soundstall. Caspar Weinberger lived up there. And after public access video went on, it's way before YouTube, public access TV, there was a hope that maybe some grassroots television talk shows would spring up that people could relate to that made them feel good and gave insight into Echo's school problems and things like this. But what happened was in the number one TV show was Race and Reason. It was a droning, despicable um, sort of fascist thing that was going. And the book it was based on was written by Colton Putnam on Mount Desert Island. This dude, Zoe, ended up sending me glowing cheers about Joseph Goebbels being this great, fantastic man. He was making mouse cages for the immunogenic slabs. Well, where I was in the development of understanding of what they were doing textual, linguistically, and the hidden transcript was I was realizing that Ian Wadmaker became a neurosurgeon. I hadn't identified the letters yet. That was way in the future. Wasn't even in Pittsburgh. Didn't have access to them. The neurosurgeon played a role in King Crimson. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on with this? It's starting to come into focus that this was not just some Pink Floyd buddy pulling weird word salad lyrics, as they put it. It was genuinely critical hidden text of a military mission coming from this Gurdjieff cult. So how did Joseph Goebbels end up being the leader of the Jewish Defense League and the black man? Because Zoe was representing Obama and his claims about Leslie Katz with Martin Edelman, and they were making licky chops for him. And they planned to continue making licky chops for him for as long as they could do it. And they were selling it to somebody, the way Schulman was ripping off the museums. They were getting alibis from Peter Balakian and a Pulitzer Prize. I mean, the sheriff's like, hey, Peter Balakian's on board. How can anybody question it? And so these murderers had some side raps to brag about because everybody was all concerned about Leslie Katz. They didn't peep that. If they did peep, they kept it to themselves. They didn't see how lascivious she was being. I didn't do anything to her. That was the whole point. I said, don't tell me what to do. Leslie Katz. I think you were making a mockery of somebody who treated you well. And Frippiton was like, oh, we can't have this. Mick Jagger says whoosh. Matt Marcus says whoosh. He's burning girls' arms gangren, as they say, to bring them back to reality. What are they doing? Any point scabies on me? Oh, experience park. And then it's telling the black man, he's going to get away. He's going to get away. We need to inject him. And they end up ripper murdering some girl in Seattle. I mean, Licky Chops really gets around. The Green Party's really something else. They murdered my dad, stamped all this stuff on the back of his obituary. So what's the get? That Joseph Goebbels represents the black man. And the German Green Party ends up on the back of my father's obituary because he's the white. He shouldn't be espousing the civil rights movement. That's not his place. I mean, what Joseph Goebbels was doing leading the JDL. You know, The only way that you can make sense of it is through the two virgins pussy bowl system that they put together. See, Joseph Goebbels arranged for an Indian woman to seduce the white. So the black man gets the sublime agent of life from Japan. I mean, it's the only way you can analyze it for what it was. Anthropology, we made a game to illustrate something about anthropology. This is a scared straight program clock to the death of anybody who gets two virgins, right? So it's like parochial. And they say that they have the right to contaminate people who are not Ramrod straight. Like they peep like crazy. They say, see, he looks at pornography. That proves he's still an infidel. He's infidelitous to the girl who he loves. And so we worm him. We get to worm him. Write sadistic and lewd notes to him as a deaf man and take them to the gym. That's what they were doing. I was doing everything possible to advocate for Africa. These white racists who put Mount Beatty in a letter I wrote about anti-apartheid before they took me to Mount Desert Island when it should have said Mr. Beatty. The Mount Beatty people would pull me aside, try to help black people. They're just going to turn on you, and they get it going. Joseph Goebbels has the black man twitching by the string. He's still twitching by the string. They're not even ashamed of it because they see it as merit sex ball. They call it sexual access at UW Dialectical. They've got plenty of licky chops to go around. This is what the military is doing here. So they burned down the Jackson Labs. And they were tuning at the hookah bit. Ringo Starr and his slappers. And they were setting it up to make it look like, Gwener's some sophisticated genius probing the inner psyche of the people she's exterminating, giving them licky chops more. People shouldn't be as cannibalistic. It's one thing to collect comic books, it's another to go around making snuff films. Mick Jagger, don't come to this country.